the main pain, as I understand it, that you saw as CISO and you've seen in your experiences, is that it's one thing being able to assess like state and time risk at any one particular point in time, and that's useful. But being able to measure that progressively over a period of time, being able to take that data, present it in a way that actually means something to the business, and being able to be able to rely on the data as well. So really trying to streamline that whole process of being able to track your effectiveness in terms of security. I mean, that's really the challenge, is that it especially in a larger organization, that's to do that right is a huge amount of work, and that's what you're automating.
Yeah, exactly. There's a number of different elements to it. There's that keeping the data the same across everybody when you're collecting it. That's important. Normalizing it is important. But then keeping it uniform over time as well. So each time you talk to people, are we measuring the same thing each time? That's really important. But just being able to have that visibility of it at all. But the other thing that I did as a consultant, the thing that I would always do is build out a framework. Build out a framework and assign roles to people within that framework, and they would then have responsibility for a particular area of security. And giving that responsibility to people and building it out in an operating model, a target operating model, really helps with your overall governance. And if you've got better governance of your security, then it's much easier to create those improvements as well. So it's not just about kind of showing how well you're doing, but giving you the control and the ability to inject some easy kind of kind of management actions.
Got it. Yeah.
So you can just say, right, we've got an area there that those processes don't look like they're performing how I want them to. I can just drop a task in there and get somebody to improve it. They can come back to me and say, actually, I need help with this. I need budget. I need tooling.
So it's a collaborative. It's a way of also bringing the team and making sure that everybody understands their roles and responsibilities and being able to achieve those goals. That's as much what it's about, is just showing improvement. It's the management of the thing as much as anything. Then it's brilliant. That's really interesting.
It's a strange one, because the first time I described it to the first group of people I described it to, automatically said, well, we use GRC tools. And they compare it to things like Archer and OneTrust. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing. If you had a OneTrust tool in there, you could still use what I'm talking about, because I'm not going to do risk management for you. I'm not going to get down into the depths of the risks. I don't even want to talk to my board about risk in terms of what you've got written down there as a risk.
Right.
I want to roll that up into a number of themes. I want to say, access control, or the lack of it, is costing you £1 million a year in terms of risk terms. I don't want to tell you that, we have one particular system over there with 8-character passwords on it, and it should be 15. They don't care about that.
They don't care.
Exactly.
It's really interesting, because again, one thing, if I sort of just reflect briefly on our experience of this as well, is that we found that one of the things that my day job when I'm not doing CISO Talks is I'm CEO of a company called Lepide, and one of the things that we found when we were trying to talk to CISOs and security professionals about presenting risk is, unless you present it in a way that the business understands, you just won't get anywhere. So one of the things that we do, for example, when we do like a discovery and classification part of one of our solutions, and what we're able to do is append a monetary value to the data that we're looking at, and being able to present the data and say that actually what we've got here is we've got data that's worth this much money that's in that location. That's significantly better than saying, oh, we've got a bunch of data that's on a file server. Or being able to say, well, well, we've got this employee that has access to a bunch of this type of data. So, well, actually, we've got this employee that has access to that much value worth of data. Just that little difference of being able to just change the language is actually much more effective 100%. In getting the business to understand. It's
absolutely right. And the way that I described it a couple of weeks ago to someone was, if you report on technical risk, if you're in the low level in that detail and you report that to the board, they will use it to judge you. It's a metric for them because it's a technical risk, and you're the technical risk guy.
That's right.
If you go to them and report on business risk, the value at risk, here's the money because of your business processes, suddenly it's their problem.
That's right.
So I totally agree with that. But as I said before, it's still only holding a mirror up to them, because they still want to find a way of judging you. You've just got to give them a better way to judge you, not on risk, because risk, if they're judging you on their risk, then and you're not managing that risk with them, then and that's quite a common position to be in as a CISO. If you're not helping them to manage it, then that risk is always going to be increasing, and you're going to be the one that's under pressure to fix it. And without the tools to fix it, you're the one that's going to be out on your ear in a short time. And then CISO tenures are still now. I mean,
3 years, is it? Yeah, 3, 4 years.
Well, I was on a DEF CON podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I stated that it was 17 or 18 months. From from the last metrics I'd heard. And there was a recruiter on the call, and he said, actually, it's more like a year now.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, really?
Wow.
Has it got that bad? And he said, yeah, there's so much pressure, and because the role itself is changing, it's being elevated more into the business all the time. So you're getting, so CISOs tend to, and I'm generalizing here, but they tend to be from a technical background, because security in general is a technical discipline.
Sure thing, yeah.
You don't get a lot of people coming from a business background and go, I'll just have a crack at security, because there are easier things to get into. The CISOs will generally come from a technical background, and making that jump from thinking about technology, even making the risk from the jump from thinking about technical metrics to thinking about technical risk, even that's quite big.
Sure.
Taking that from technical risk to financial risk, that's another big jump. Taking that from, actually, we need financial risk and a metric to show how well I'm doing, so a maturity metric on top of that, to give a rounded picture of how I'm performing and how I fit in with the rest of the company. That's, we've now made 2 or 3 massive leaps from a management position in security. So you've got people who are coming up as heads of information assurance and heads of security operations, who have been in the job for a long time, very competent technically, even good at the business, talking to the right people, who don't know, because they haven't had that experience of getting to that next step. And there's people might have written about it or how to do it, but there's no one that's telling you that this is why it happens. This is what you need to do. And because if you don't, you're automatically going to be behind your peer group, and you'll be the one kind of red face sitting at the top table. And I think that's also the reason why there's nothing that currently really exists in this space to help, because up until now hasn't really been needed.
No.
But you can see there's this 10 years of getting down to the period of a year. I mean, a year isn't long enough to really show any return.